Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from a monthly selection, and access to daily news digests from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post, as well as guided meditation programs. Between a full-time job in IT and a full-time job in podcasting, it gets harder and harder to sit down and read the books I'm interested in. This is where Audible comes in. I can listen on my daily commute, relaxing, or while out running errands and still get in the books I've been wanting to get into. You can download titles and listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free and can be installed on all smartphones and tablets. Now you can try Audible risk-free with a special 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. That's audibletrial.com/nerdery and murdery. Don't let your busy life get in the way of that great book you've been wanting to read. Go get your free trial of Audible today. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. This is Geoffrey, and we've talked about many times before that I experience problems and struggles with my mental health. And really, without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy does work. It's helped for me, but what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, or you're not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's really time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles, and it's time to start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is a customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And there's a special offer to Nerdery and Murdery listeners. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. That's betterhelp.com/nerdery and murdery. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of Nerdery and Murdery.
You're an idiot. All right. Welcome to episode 8 of Nerdery and Murdery. I'm Geoffrey with your murdery.
I'm Sig with your nerdery, and I'm apparently a little tickled.
I keep doing this backwards. I gotta remember to reverse it.
It's fine.
We're actually Nerdery and Murdery.
Yes.
Sorry, we had a little funny going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
Little making fun of William, and
yes.
I think he just said that he hated us.
Yes. So we've depressed and bored him.
I do sometimes wonder as we talk through this. I mean, Will's doing a great job being our producer and handling all this. I wonder how many times he's sitting over there going, "Oh my God, I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm so bored." You bored over there, William?
No. Yes.
He talked.
I know.
Oh my gosh, he talked.
We got that.
Wow.
Well, so I'm glad we're doing this episode of Nerdery and Murdery because it allows me to say something to Will. That is, William, it was really nothing.
So that whole thing where you put your fake gun to your chin just a second ago and pulled the trigger, your little finger gun, you're probably going to do that several times today.
I would suspect. So
Yes. Sad bastard music.
yeah, I know the subject already. So yeah, it's good stuff. But yeah, I think William, you may actually lose it on this one a little bit. So. Yep, here recording episode 8. Got our official Nerdery and Murdery cups that
Love these cups.
gifted out on the last episode.
Thank you, sir.
So maybe eventually those that could be merchandise somewhere that somebody might want.
Yes, yes. You should get the one that says Zig.
I think you should be Team Murdery and
Team Nerdery.
get mine. That's what we need to have. We need to have Team Nerdery and Team Murdery.
You think so? Yeah. Team Nerdery, Team Nerdery.
Yeah.
I still think Will's is going to sell the best.
I agree with you. I can't wait until we finally go live and people start contacting us. I want to see what people send him.
Yes.
That's the one I'm most
Flowers.
interested in. Flowers, commiserations. Hi, Loki. We have Loki with us.
Hello, Loki.
I took a picture just a minute ago of Loki and Thor on a sofa together. They're our audience today, along with Bella was around here somewhere, and I know Luna was wandering around. So 4 of our 5. The 5th one is in bed. So
Right on.
you know, that's life around here.
As you do.
Life around here with 5 animals, the zoo that we have.
He has collected them all.
Well, when Miranda was much younger, we had her cat Dapple.
Dapple Kitty.
Dapple was funny. Dapple was fat. Dapple's actually fatter now. But Dapple, just typical cat, really didn't really care about any people until she was hungry. And then she would love on you.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, come pet me. My food bowl's empty.
We, one summer when Miranda went down south to stay with her grandparents, she got a hermit crab.
Oh, nice.
And the hermit crab came home with her.
Yes.
And then she left for the summer again to go to her other she went to go visit her other grandfather, and then she went to summer camp up in Maine. She used to go to Wahilo. Her grandfather would send her there. Really good camp.
And if they want to sponsor us, Wahilo. Home of the canoeing.
Yeah, they did that. She sailed. She sailed a lot. She, did archery. That's where she really, started loving archery and got into archery in school. But the hermit crab. So the hermit crab came home, and then she left for the summer, and so we had to take care of this hermit crab.
Yes.
And it sat on our bar for our kitchen, and Dapple would get up on the bar. And slap the hermit crab off the bar.
Yeah.
And it became a whole saga on Facebook of my daily updates with the cat trying to murder the hermit crab.
Murdering
and
the
damn
hermit crab.
thing just kept living.
They're hermit crabs. Yeah. Are you familiar with what a coconut crab is?
No.
Okay. A coconut crab is a hermit crab that lives on these islands. And they get to be the size of trash can lids. They will live forever. But yeah, they basically start out life as like a hermit crab.
Wow.
Yeah. They're
Never heard of it.
gigantic coconut crabs.
I'll have to look that up.
So yeah, they're unkillable.
Yeah, Dapple tried. I mean, Dapple tried to kill this thing every time. I mean, we would put it back up there, and she'd just slap the thing off.
Well, yeah, it smelled like dinner.
Crazy cat. So, anyway, with that, guess you've got some nerdery for us for today.
Yes, I do. This is some more nerdery in the music category. Now, normally we've only done one more music show, but what I really
it
want
could be normally.
Yeah. But normally, what I would like to do is just focus on a specific period on a specific band. However, this band's life was only 5 years, so I can basically focus on their whole existence, and it is The Smiths.
I didn't know it was only 5 years.
It was 5 years. 5 years from the time they decided to start a band, just the idea, until they broke up and released their last album.
Well, you know, and call back to the very first episode. I think it was when you did the replacements. This again was during a time that I was completely unaware of this type of music.
Yeah, you had to, in DFW particularly, in 1987, 1988, 1989, before we got the Edge, you had to listen to, you know, depending on where you were, there was a SMU radio station. I don't remember what it was called. There was KTCU in Fort Worth, but if you were outside of Fort Worth, it was really hard to get it because it was low powered.
Well, and
it was left of the dial.
And I never listened to it either. I never listened to TCU. It just wasn't. It wasn't the pop music that I was listening to, the bubblegum pop, which.
Well, KTCU did play bubblegum pop during the day. You only got this weird stuff on, I think it was Friday nights in a 2-hour block.
Well, and some of this alternative made it mainstream.
Yes. They had a dance.
Depeche Mode went mainstream. Yes. New Order had some mainstream stuff. Susie and the Banshees.
Yes.
But the Smiths never did.
The Smiths, okay, so the Smiths were huge in England. They weren't real big over here. Now, Morrissey, when he went out solo, he got fairly big here. I mean, he played, you know, like the Tonight Show and stuff. So, but that was after a solo career. Yeah, the Smiths weren't that big here. They even toured here, and they didn't hook everybody when they first came over. And I want to say most fans became fans after everything was done. I did.
Like me.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I say a fan. So I'm not. I guess I'm not really sure why it's surprising me that they only went 5 years, because I probably only know 3 or 4 of their songs.
How Soon Is Now? Everyone knows.
Everyone knows How Soon Is Now.
Yeah, you can, when you hear that opening guitar riff of the great Johnny Marr, you know that song.
It's a great one. You know, and it was covered by Tattoo, Tatu,
yes.
Russian girl band.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was a good cover too.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good cover. I know some people don't like covers. I personally do, as long as they're good.
Yeah.
You know, I've been surprised sometimes finding something as a cover. Jimi Hendrix, All on the Watchtower,
is Bob Dylan song.
Yes,
it's better as a Hendrix song.
Absolutely, because when I found out that Dylan did it first, I was like, what?
Yeah,
and I had to go and find it, and I'm like, oh my god, yeah, Hendrix is way better.
Yeah. Hey Joe was also a cover song.
I think I knew that.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
It was Richie Havens originally. It just, his version's fine, but it's not Hey Joe, you know?
So I don't hate covers. You know,
Me and Bobby McGee is a song by.
Sorry, could anybody hear me roll my eyes at that one?
Yes, it was audible.
I don't like Janis Joplin.
Me and Bobby McGee was a song written and performed by Chris Christopherson.
Right.
And it was actually about Janis Joplin. She was
supposedly.
Yeah. Well, he said yes, it was, and no, it wasn't several times over the years. So I still think it is. It kind of rings true. Because that's where our house was up in Salinas.
Strangely enough, the subject of that song is still a conspiracy theory to this day.
Yeah.
But covers, I don't have necessarily a problem with covers. Disturbed Sound of Silence. Let me go ahead and be sacrilegious now. Maybe I think theirs is better than Simon and Garfunkel.
Ooh.
I love Disturbed Sound of Silence. Love it.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'll give you that. It is a good cover. Well, and you know, a tailing off on covers of Simon and Garfunkel, the Bangles. Hazy Shade of Winter.
Hazy Shade of Winter.
10 times better than the original song. And not that the Simon and Garfunkel song was bad.
Maybe I'm just not a Simon and Garfunkel fan. I don't know. I mean, I know their music. You know, I watched the whole Simon and Garfunkel in Central Park in the 80s and saw all that.
Oh, yeah.
But
they're pledge drives on PBS every year.
There have been good covers
Yeah.
throughout the years, and sometimes that they're better than the original, and some people will say that's complete sacrilege.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know. I like different, I like different takes on stuff. I honestly, the one band that I don't really care for when people cover them is The Cure, because I don't think anybody does anything different. Basically, they're just playing The Cure.
well, and the Cure had a cover that they did themselves when they did Strawberry Fields.
Yeah.
I hated that. I couldn't stand that.
Oh,
couldn't
and
stand that
for
version.
Rubaiyat, they covered, which was the Atlantic Records 40th anniversary. They got a bunch of alternative groups to cover the classic stuff, and I'm trying to remember what they covered. Oh my God, I can't remember it. It wasn't great.
Well, there was that one album in the early aughts. I think could have been late '90s, but I think it was early aughts. All the groups that covered Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah,
That was really good.
yeah. They covered Foxy Lady on their first album too, but you don't ever hear it because we don't get the Cure's first album doesn't get played over here.
Thank you for telling me who we were talking about, because at one point I'm like, who are we talking about?
sorry.
Like, are we
We're gonna
the Smiths or are we the Cure?
We were yeah.
So you'd said they, and I was like,
They,
which,
The Cure.
Which one? We went so many places. As we will, as we will.
So yes, the Smiths. So a little side piece right off the bat. On the 31st of August, 1978, a 19-year-old Morrissey was introduced to a 14-year-old Johnny Marr by their mutual acquaintance, Billy Duffy. Billy Duffy was the guitar player for the Cult. He's the one with he had the white, the white blonde crew cut. You always see in the videos. Or I think for Sonic Temple, he had long white blonde feathered hair, and the album cover for Sonic Temple with the guy doing the wheel on the guitar.
Okay, long blonde feathered hair. Are we talking like Flock of Seagulls?
No. More like Motley Crue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
The Cult Sonic Temple, the guitar player on the cover of that album, that is Billy Duffy.
Gotcha.
He's also a very dear friend of Morrissey. He doesn't like to work with Morrissey, but he loves him.
So I'm going to ask a stupid question. Sorry, I'm saying stupid. Maybe it's not stupid. Somebody else may want this at all. Does Morrissey have another name? Does he?
Yes, his name is Stephen Patrick Morrissey.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Stephen Patrick, he detests his first name, so he just goes by his last name.
Okay.
Yes. So Johnny Marr and Morrissey were just kind of acquaintances. Johnny Marr had been playing with a bunch of different bands. He actually got a funk band together for a while and played with some friends and stuff. But he wanted to be a musician his whole life. This is the guitar player for the Smiths, Johnny Marr, and everybody else. Anytime somebody needs a jingle jangle guitar in England, especially Manchester, they just call up Johnny Marr. He comes on and he performs it, and everybody's happy. So he had seen Morrissey's original band, the Nosebleeds, which was the band that Morrissey was in with Billy Duffy, the guitar player for the Cult, which is a punk band, and they were kind of, they did okay. But then they were reforming a band called Slaughter and the Dogs down in London, and they wanted to get a singer and a guitar player. So they got Billy Duffy, and Morrissey thought he was going to go, but they decided on somebody else. And that band actually quickly folded, and that's when Billy Duffy joined the Cult. But Morrissey didn't have a band to play with, and so he started writing books. He wrote a book about the New York Dolls and a book about James Dean. And that's what he was doing. He was a writer. He was still living in his mom's house, but he was making a little money. And he didn't think he was going to go back into music. And then in 1982, this kid he'd met a few times, Johnny Marr, May of 1982. This is the important date because this is the beginning of the Smiths, right? In May of 1982, Johnny Marr and a friend of his, Steve Pomfret, knocked on Morrissey's door because they'd read that the two songwriters from the early 60s for Atlantic Records called Lieber and Stoller, they had decided to start a songwriting partnership because Lieber had knocked on Stoller's door and said, we need to start writing songs together. So Johnny Marr and Stephen Pomfret said, let's do that with Morrissey because they loved his songwriting.
They went and knocked on his door.
They went and knocked on his door and said,
was he already depressed when he answered?
Yes. Yes, he was. Although, Morrissey's depression, I don't think it's so much true depression as it is kind of a gimmick.
So a gimmick to the music.
Yes.
Because that's
it's also very tongue in cheek. A lot of it is humor too.
Because most people do think he's just very depressed and very dark and everything like that.
I think way down deep, he's so smart that it kind of gets in his way, they say never meet your heroes. I don't ever want to meet Morrissey because I have heard he's a complete a-hole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that would break my heart because he was so important to me when I was a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah, that's how I would be with Peter Gabriel if I met him and Peter Gabriel was a jerk. Yeah. And I've never heard that he is. Please don't think that I'm saying that. No. But that's I think of that as the equivalent. Yeah. It would absolutely break my heart because I just want to imagine that he's just the nicest guy in the world, even though I heard some stories about how he was with his wife.
Yeah. I want Morrissey to be, welcoming and lovely like a Santa Claus figure. I know that's not true.
Like Alice Cooper in Wayne's World.
Yes. No. See, it's like this. It's okay, guys. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Now, Alice Cooper's one I've heard is extremely nice.
Yes.
I've never heard anybody say anything different.
Yes. And will help you with your golf game.
He's apparently an amazing golfer.
Yeah.
I saw either his current house or his old house when I was in Phoenix last, sitting up on this hill overlooking the freeway. And he's apparently a really good golfer. I've actually seen him on PGA news shows.
Yeah, just knocking it out of the park or whatever you do in golf. I don't know. It's sport. You know what? It's not a game to me if it doesn't have plastic pieces, dragons, dungeons, or spaceships.
You played 3D golf with us, Golden Tee.
Yeah, okay. The Golden Tee was fun, but it was a video game.
Right.
So that you could break your wrist on, apparently.
I fractured my wrist playing Golden Tee, yes.
Well, you have to take a running start at this roller ball and hit it really hard, and if you miss, it hurts.
Yeah, like I did. Wound up in the ER.
Yeah.
Which they, both the doctor and the nurse had to contain their laughter when I told them I did it playing a video game.
You could have just said I did it playing golf.
I could have. I know. I know.
It was the god of video
they
game.
were doing their damn level best to not laugh at me.
The Smiths. I'm sorry.
Circling back
to the Smiths. Okay, so by the end of the summer of '82, Morrissey had chosen the band name The Smiths, and the idea was he wanted something that was, people who work on things are called smiths, like blacksmiths or silversmiths. Or he was like, okay, we work on songs, so we'll call ourselves The Smiths. Plus, it's just a regular, a common name. So he thought it was kind of funny a juxtaposition.
Right.
He wanted to be this great cerebral and popular band, but at the same time have just sort of a common name, like The Smiths.
Right.
I mean, that's the most bland name you can have, as opposed to, say, I don't know, The.
Which is also a band from that era.
Yes, and a band that Johnny Marr had worked with quite a bit. He and I can't think of the guy's name that runs The, or Matt Johnson, are really good friends and have been since school.
Sorry, my favorite of all time is, that band Talk Talk.
Talk Talk.
That have that album,
Talk. They got that song, Talk. It was in this movie with that guy. It's true. Actually, the album was not called Talk Talk. I don't remember what the album was called because I went and looked it up. I was like, oh, it's not called Talk Talk?
It wasn't.
That's not nearly as much fun.
We've said that for years. It's the whole thing that, when you don't know the history, but you just make it up, it makes the history true in the end.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Something like that.
Yes.
Whatever it was. Bill Paxton? Was it him that did that? He did a history show like that. Oh my God! Now I can't even.
Oh no, Robert Wool.
Robert Wolf. Yes.
Robert
Yeah.
Wolf.
Thank you.
I know what you're talking about. Oh, that was a really funny bit. And
Yes,
he was
it
doing
was.
it in front of a college class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really.
But that was something he always said. Something about
Yeah.
when you're
Is it true? It doesn't matter. It's a good story.
right, and then makes the history true. Right. Well, I'll have to look that one up.
Circling back,
As we do.
as we do. Stephen Pomfret, who was there to knock on Morrissey's door, he just kind of he was like, this is not really what I'm wanting to do. They made him work a little too hard, I think, because Johnny Marr and Morrissey were very serious about this. And Morrissey, for all his faults, he doesn't drink. He doesn't really smoke. He doesn't eat meat, or he didn't. No drugs. The idea of drugs is apocryphal to a lot, believe it or not, to a lot of punk rock people, because the idea of being like a rock star is totally antithetical to the punk idea. There's a word they use, and the English guys use it a lot, called being a rockist. You don't want to be a rockist or to be rockist, because that's a bad thing. That's antithetical to the idea.
Sure.
There's a big movement, well, in the 80s, especially in Boston, where if you were a punk, you went to go to listen to shows. You didn't drink, you didn't smoke, you didn't, maybe some caffeine, and you would walk into a place with a big black X on your hand to show that you weren't drinking. And it was, you'll see them, a lot of people even now in shows, the backs of their hands will have those big black X's on them for a reason. It's to call themselves out as being straight edge. Morrissey was kind of that way. He was even celibate for a while at the beginning of the Smiths. Just, it was all about the music. He just threw himself into everything.
Which is actually, I'd say that's really kind of rare in the rock scene.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, especially you go to the hair bands of the 80s, and it was all about the drinking and the drugs and the partying and everything. The Motley Crue docudrama, the Dirt.
Yeah, which was hysterical.
It was. I personally love the Dirt.
I've seen it twice.
Oh, I've seen it way more than that. The Dirt, and Rockstar. Those are kind of a couple of guilty pleasures of mine that I can watch. But yeah, it was about the drug. And it's funny. And you talk about Rockstar, or you didn't talk about Rockstar. I talked about Rockstar.
Okay.
Rockstar. One of the characters in that, Cubby, I think the character's name is Cubby, talked about that you can't be doing all that drinking and drugs and everything all night long and expect to be able to tour. Yeah. Talked about you actually have to take care of your body, but that wasn't very typical for your hair bands.
Morrissey went to bed early. Like Johnny Marr and some of the producers and the other members of the band, which we'll get to here in a minute, would, stay up and have some wine and drink and, smoke cigarettes and laugh and talk and joke and work out sounds. But Morrissey was like, I'm going to bed. I got to save my voice. And to his credit, his voice is beautiful. Okay. So imagine you've got a band, and they're drawing, of course they've got a punk bass and a punk, drum set. So it's real, just bop, 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 just really on point, right? And then you've got a guitarist who likes to play like the Byrds, that jangly guitar sound, which he drew from the early 60s. And then you have a singer who sings like a 1940s crooner. You can draw, Morrissey sounds more like Frank Sinatra than he does Johnny Rotten. So yeah, you've got the singer who sounds more like Frank Sinatra than he does Johnny Rotten. And that was by choice. That was a conscious decision. They want to bring all of these influences into their music, which is why their pop songs sound so good. So they're going on. They get a new bass player, a guy named Dale Hibbert.
Isn't that a Simpsons character?
Yeah, I think that's where they got the name.
No. King of the Hill?
No.
What's Dale Gribble? Gribble.
Yeah, Dale Hibbert.
I think there's a Hibbert in The Simpsons. And then, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mixed everything up there.
No, you're fine. But yeah, they got Dale Hibbert, and he worked with them on a couple of demos, but he kind of left, and they got this drummer named Mike Joyce, who they'd all kind of known and was in the area. They're a band out of Manchester, so big music scene then. We will do an episode on the Manchester indie scene at some point, particularly Factory Records, because the story is so funny and fascinating. The reason the Smiths didn't sign with Factory Records, I think, is because the owner of Factory Records, Tony, oh my God, I can't think of his name. Anyway, he refused to call Morrissey Morrissey. He was referred to as Stephen. Yeah. Tony Wilson. No, Tony Wilson is...
Just to get on his nerves or what?
I'm sure. Tony Wilson was that guy. But, oh my God, he is so funny. We will cover Tony Wilson because it is so funny. They even made a movie about Factory Records and Tony Wilson. Oh my God. It's called 24-Hour Party People. If you haven't seen it, you guys need to go check that out. It's really, really funny because the actor who's playing Tony Wilson will stop in the middle, break the fourth wall, and look at the audience and go, okay, this is how I remember this happening. Somebody else said this happened this way, so I just want to make it clear. And here we go. And it just goes right back into the story. He does it through the whole movie.
I like breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So they do talk to Tony Wilson, but Tony Wilson passes because he didn't think Morrissey had it. He knew Morrissey was an incredible writer. He knew Morrissey was a great songster, and he knew Johnny Marr was exceedingly gifted as a guitarist.
Right.
He just didn't think that it would be as big as it was. So he passed on him. Anyway, so they get Mike Joyce. Mike Joyce shows up to the
Rehearsal? Recording?
No, where he's trying out the tryout.
The thingy?
Yes, the thingy.
The thingy.
With the stuff. Yeah. He's trying out. He's audition.
There we go. I
can't believe an ex-actor can't remember the word audition. Yeah. So he shows up.
Tryout thingy.
Yes, the tryout thingy. He shows up to the tryout thingy, and he dropped a couple of tabs of acid and then starts playing the drums. And he said he looked down at his feet and he saw an MX missile weaving in and out of his feet while he's drumming. And Morrissey's a big, no drugs, no nothing. So he had to keep that on the down low. But yeah, he was so good. They're like, yeah, we got to have that guy. That guy's our backbeat. That's our Pete Best. Mm-hmm. Even though the Beatles got rid of Pete Best. Anyway. So yeah, Tony Wilson wasn't interested in them. And Dale Hibbert leaves, and Johnny Marr's school friend Andy Rourke is a bass player, and they're like, why don't you come join us? So that was it. That was the lineup. You had Stephen Patrick Morrissey, Johnny Marr, Mike Joyce, and Andy Rourke. Mike Joyce on drums, Andy Rourke on bass, and that was it. That was the band for their entire existence. I think they tried to get another guitarist right at the end, but he was only with them for a week or two.
And when did they officially start? What year?
This is 1982.
Okay.
It's the summer of 1982.
Okay.
And their end date is the summer of 1987. But yeah, May of 82 is when they knocked on Morrissey's door.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, which is what fascinates me about this band. They were able to make 4 albums, an album worth of singles, and tour the world in 5 years, almost to the day. I'm going to take the opportunity to go, just shut your mouth. How can you say I go about things the wrong way? I am human and I need to be loved just like everybody else does.
That has to stay in there. Oh, we got to figure out how to keep that in there. Oh my God, that's great. So we just had a huge edit point because I don't know if the microphone could pick you up peeing or not, but we certainly could. We got a huge edit point here, but there's a part where he sings that has to stay in. I think as soon as you say that 5 years, we just go right into that singing and then come back and go, sorry. I was just...
Yeah.
Matter of fact, start up there.
Sorry, I was just thinking about the Smiths. How Soon Is Now, it was their big dance hit. It was wonderful. And yeah, honestly, if you go into my house and you just say the phrase, just shut your mouth, people will start singing.
God.
It's awesome. So yeah, 5 years from May of 1982, where they just decide they're going to have a band. They get the band together. They start recording demos. And almost to the day, 5 years, they've released 4 albums, studio albums, 1 album of, unreleased singles and B-sides and stuff, and toured the world, and they were done. But they're, 5 years. That's what blows my mind about these guys.
Why did they end?
I will get to that.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Honestly, there's a couple of different theories on that, but no one's really saying one way or the other. So yeah, Dale Hibbert leaves. They record their second demo with the full band. What difference does it make? Handsome Devil and Miserable Lie. Those were all on. No, Handsome Devil wasn't. All on their first album, The Smiths, which is the one that I got introduced to first.
Don't know any of them.
They recorded that for EMI, which was a big record company in England. That's a major. But then they go down to London because EMI passes on them, and they hand the cassettes over to Jeff Travis, spelled the right way.
Oh, mine?
Yes, Jeff Travis. He has an independent record label called Rough Trade. You're probably familiar with Rough Trade. I think they released some stuff by Depeche Mode, Sire, Mute, Rough Trade.
I don't know the album. I mean, I know Depeche Mode.
Yeah. He didn't sign them to a contract right away because they didn't do contracts so much. They did with the Smiths finally, but they cut the song Hand in Glove as a single, and the single was released in May of '83. So 1 year they were releasing a single, and it went up, not real high, but then they did a Peel session with John Peel. He's a BBC One radio host who likes to show up and coming music, and he records them. And when they did that Peel session, they went straight to the top.
Well, we've just hit the first song that I know.
Oh,
Hand in Glove.
Hand in Glove. Hand in Glove, the sun shines out of our behinds. It's one of my favorite lines.
You got that, William? Sunshine out of their behinds. Got that one?
It's not like any other love. This one's different because it's us. Okay. Why contemplate life's complexities when the leather runs deep on the passenger seat? Maybe the greatest piece of pop music I've ever heard. I love that line.
Okay.
I do. I think it's brilliant. And he sings it. Why contemplate life's complexities when the leather runs deep on the passenger seat? I would go out tonight, but I haven't got a stitch to wear. Yeah. I know this because I hear it.
Did you get it that time? Got it?
You got it?
In your head? Is that going to be your new Thanos line?
If I go out tonight, but I haven't got it. But again, see, you hear it. When I sing it, I'm wanting to sing it like Morrissey. He sings it like a crooner, like Sinatra or D. Martin.
Yeah, and I had never thought of that until you said it. But you're absolutely right. I mean, he does. He sings like a crooner. Yeah.
Yeah, this is about the time they released their first album. And I think it's, at the beginning of '83. Paul Carrick, I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Carrick. He played piano on Reel Around the Fountain, which is the first. Okay, I heard How Soon Is Now, and I thought it was really good, and I heard some Morrissey stuff. This first Smiths album was the one that really sang to me. And I have to give a shout out to my friend Kent Rhodes. And I checked with him so I could say his name. I have to thank him publicly because I was a fan of the Dead Milkmen, and they wrote a song called You'll Dance to Anything, and they kind of make fun of the Smiths. They weren't making fun of the Smiths. They were making fun of the Smiths fans. But I was like, I don't know if I like this. But then I heard How Soon Is Now. I was like, that's a pretty good song. But I was kind of back talking the Smiths a little bit. I was still a Cure fan of Depeche Mode, and we're in his little Nissan pickup truck. And I can remember it. He's like, dude, and takes the first Smiths album and pops it in, and it starts playing Reel Around the Fountain. I had just gotten out of a relationship with an older girl. And it's about the younger person being in a relationship with an older person. I don't think it's a case of pedophilia, but I think it was an older person and a younger person. And
Sorry, the story of your 20s. I was just getting out of a relationship with this girl.
yeah.
That's the story of your 20s.
Yes, it is. But actually, I was 17. No, actually, it wasn't even 17 yet. It was about a month before my 17th birthday. And it was, the song was about that, and it hooked me. And then I started listening to the rest of it, and it rocked out a little bit, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are great. And I became obsessed with that album. And then I got their next album, Meat is Murder. This is actually a few years after they split up that I really started getting into them. Meat is Murder in America had How Soon Is Now on it. In England, it didn't have it. That was a separate single that you had to buy separately.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, they released the singles album that I talked about. But yeah, over here we got a lot of those singles on albums. Like I want to say, one of the songs on the American version of the Smiths. It may have been Hand in Glove. I could be wrong about that. We got it here, but they didn't get it over there on the album. So for Smith's album collectors, those things make a big difference because a lot of these guys will collect both versions.
Are they two different recordings or the same recording just on two different albums?
Yeah, same recording of two different albums. There's just a different song listing.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I know the album Meat is Murder. I know of the album Meat is Murder. Didn't know that How Soon Is Now was on that one, but that kind of makes sense that's the album I know the name of, and
they toured the UK after Meat is Murder because it had some hits, and they also had Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now was one, and William, It Was Really Nothing is also on Meat is Murder.
Hey, William. William's dancing,
and William, It Was Really Nothing. The B-side was How Soon Is Now. How Soon Is Now is a B-side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Pause. Not an edit point. You are going to have to explain. I know what it is.
Yes.
When you say it to me, do you know what a B-side is, William? That's well, okay. So the B-side is the flip side. It actually comes from albums.
Yeah, from records.
Where all the music that was released on the radio that were all A-side.
Yeah.
Everything else, the relative unknowns, were B-side. There were groups that did entire albums of the B-cuts, the B-side cuts.
B-sides.
Yeah. First Wave on XM has a whole show on
all B-sides.
B-sides. Yeah.
All B-sides.
So, sorry, I had to stop there because I know there's some people out there that might have gone, what the hell's a B-side?
What's a B-side? Okay. So you've got a record. On one side, you've got the A-side. You flip it over, you got the B-side.
Yes.
Also in cassette singles, because I was actually collecting them as cassette singles.
And that was always a thing with me is I really loved when a band came out with an album and everything on it I loved because that was rare.
Yeah.
Because you'd get to the B-side, the deep cuts as they might call them too, and they sometimes weren't as good. And I always loved bands that I was getting the bang for my buck, that I got their album and I loved
everything.
I loved everything on it.
Well, or even if you didn't necessarily love it, at least everything on it was good. Because there's songs that I can recognize as being good that I'm just not crazy about.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but everything they worked on that album.
Right.
The Smiths themselves do not like their first album because it was recorded by somebody that they thought was going to sound good. It didn't sound right, so they had it recorded by somebody else. When it came out, they didn't care for it. That album sounds kind of like the Replacements album that you listen to, Let It Be. Mm-hmm. It sounds kind of tinny. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The Smiths' first album is kind of tinny.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that I don't love it, but it is kind of tinny. Meat is Murder is not. Meat is Murder sounds really good. I've heard that on vinyl, CD, cassette. It sounds great. I would say that, and again, we talked about this, I think, before, Nerdery, those LP record guys, they're like, oh, you got to hear it on vinyl. It only sounds right this way. It has to be on vinyl. No
again,
problem.
eye roll.
It's got the right sticker on it. Yeah.
I need to get a soundbite for my eye roll. I don't think vinyl is pure. I just don't, and I know, and I know we have people that may or may not listen to this right now that are like, oh gosh, yes.
The only way to hear it is on vinyl. It's the warmest. It's got a tone.
I don't need it with the pops and the crackles,
See, I like the pops and the crackles. Those make me happy.
That doesn't make it pure to me because that's not really, that wasn't written to the music.
No.
So I guess that's why I'm like, no, vinyl is not pure to me because it wasn't written into the music.
Yeah.
Wonder if there is anybody out there that actually wrote those pops and crackles into their music.
I would think that by now there probably is that somebody's recording those specifically to be in there because they just think it's cool. I guarantee you there's an artist out there who's doing that.
Does any... And this may be a silly question, but this is just my lack of knowledge of current. Do people make albums still?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so they're not just releasing individual songs and lumping them together.
Records are coming back. Making record players.
I know that's the whole vinyl thing. That's the whole. That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But no, I'm talking about where I'm Joe Schmo and I'm going to release this album that has 12 tracks on it.
Yeah.
And okay, so people's
they're still releasing albums. And again, a lot of those people are releasing. They'll release them digitally and they're releasing them on vinyl. And that's all you get. There's also a small movement where people are releasing stuff on cassette.
Why?
Because they like the way it sounds.
Oh my God, that's
It's. I would say a lot of people are saying, well, digital killed the music industry, and the major labels killed themselves. They bought out all the little labels that were doing fairly well, and they got big and bloated, and made it hard for people with something to say. The ability to make records. Didn't. You know what? That was the thing we talked about indie music. It happened differently in England. They had little independent record stores, but they became major labels. Rough Trade.
Right. You were talking about that in the Replacements that the little record became major. Became major labels.
Rough Trade was originally a record store. It's still there. You can go to it.
But, and it goes back to my point asking about albums because, that's just not how I consume it anymore because Spotify is my platform of choice.
Oh, yeah.
And, when I want a song, I put a song into a song list somewhere. I have my group of songs.
If you want to hear a full album, you just pop it on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can cut out the B-side, quote unquote. You can't see my air quotes.
Yeah.
The B-side that I really don't care about, I can just completely cut those out and make, I don't know, I guess making my perfect mixtape.
It's all about the mixtape. Hey man, I spent a lot of time making those mixtapes back in the day.
I did too.
Yeah, I had an All Smiths mixtape that had songs that I liked.
I constantly made mixtapes. I think I've actually mentioned this before that, I would sit there and illegally get music by having a cassette. At first, a cassette player that I would put right up next to my radio and hit record when I wanted to hear a song. And I thought my life was changed forever when I got my first boombox that had a recordable.
Well, you could record from the radio.
Directly from the radio.
Yeah. And you had to be fast.
You did. I got really, really good at cutting out the DJ on a lot of that. Some of it stayed in.
Not to name check my friend Trey Cadenhead. He had the dual cassette, rack with faders on it.
Yeah.
And you could make a mixtape off the radio or something like that and give it to him and another cassette, and he would dub it over and take out all of the mistakes in it. Oh my God, he was so good at it.
I didn't have the fader, but I had the dual cassette, and I could do my own edits and everything. I need an edit point. Sorry, I tailed off onto vinyl again.
It's okay. I could talk about vinyl. I like the sound, but I also like the sound of the cassettes.
I don't get me wrong. I don't hate the sound. I just the whole thing of vinyl is pure.
No, FLAC is pure.
Right. So, I don't hate vinyl at all. It's just that whole current thought that vinyl is pure. No, it's not. They didn't write those pops into the song, those crackles. No.
Will, do you know what FLAC means, what it stands for? I don't.
I don't, but I know it's the most uncompressed file of audio.
Okay. Most
uncompressed file of audio.
Okay, yes. Cool.
Interesting. Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, back to the Smiths. So they're touring on the Meat is Murder. They released some of the singles that we talked about. They go to the U.S. and they end up canceling some of their shows because they're also trying to record The Queen is Dead while they're doing this, which to a lot of people, that was the big album. But it took a while for Rough Trade to release it because, again, they were a small record company and a lot of people wanted this. So they, it was hard for them to get as many copies out as they wanted to. I mean, they could get 10,000 copies out without a problem, but they were selling hundreds of thousands of units of the Smiths and Meat is Murder. And so they kind of had to ramp up production so they could release it. And the Smiths were real unhappy and they started shopping around for a different record company. This whole time they're still touring small venues, big places. They didn't really care for touring the U.S. It wasn't their thing. They thought of themselves more as a purely English band or European.
Well, I think you may have mentioned it with the Replacements, or maybe not, but I don't know about now. But I think you said at some point that in the UK, all these bands were very popular, or a lot of people knew them. Whereas in America, as you said, you had to listen to the lower frequency radio stations. You had to know how to find them.
Yeah.
So
you had to be an active listener.
Yeah.
You couldn't just turn it on.
That makes sense that they wouldn't like it as much in the U.S. because they didn't have the fan base.
No, they didn't. And the indie record companies over there, they took over the music industry for probably 10 or 15 years. The England also started the indie charts before we did. England started the indie charts in like 81, and we didn't have it until 89. The first hit in the U.S. indie charts, you know what it was?
No.
Susie and the Banshees, Peekaboo.
Really?
Yeah. 89, 88.
I like Susie and the Banshees.
Yeah. Love Susie and the Banshees.
Cities in the Dust.
Cities in Dust. Oh, love
That's
Cities.
I think
It's a song about Pompeii.
that song is beautiful. Yeah. There's a I actually told you about it before. There's a playlist. Thank you. Good Lord. There's a playlist on Amazon Music for 80s college rock.
Nice.
And Cities in the Dust is one of those.
I bet some of these songs are on there too.
Well, and I know the whole playlist because I use that. I ask Alexa. I didn't want her to hear me and say something to play that playlist whenever I'm cleaning up the kitchen after dinner or something like that, because that playlist just kind of keeps me humming along. And Cities in the Dust is in there. There's also How Soon Is Now, of course.
Yes. He's very polite to the Alexas and the Googles of the world because he wants them to be nice to him when they take over.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I thank her every time she does something for me, because when the machines take over, I will be remembered as the polite one.
That's right.
I was nice to them.
He was nice to them.
Especially since my home is so smart.
Yes.
It's all over the place.
All over the place.
Got to be careful with
They're
those.
always listening.
Oh, that's without a doubt.
Okay, so they're recording. Sorry, circling back. They're recording The Queen is Dead. And they finally release it, and it goes up to number 2 in the UK album charts. That's big boy stuff.
Not indie charts.
Yes, UK album charts.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The only problem is the bass player, Andy Rourke, develops a heroin problem. And again, Morrissey's of the mindset that this is antithetical to, and so is Johnny Marr. Johnny Marr's still a bit of a drinker. He likes to drink. He likes to smoke. Not anymore. He didn't drink. He didn't smoke. He didn't even eat meat anymore. But back then he might have a little drink here or there. And so, there are conflicting stories on how he was kicked out of the band. He comes back, but how he was kicked out of the band. Andy Rourke still attests that he walked out to his car and there was a Post-it note that said, and I quote, "Andy, you have left the Smiths. Goodbye and good luck, Morrissey."
What was that?
Morrissey denies it.
What the hell was that? You're over there popping gum.
Popping gum.
Popping gum. You know what? We are trying to do serious. No. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold that one. Popping gum. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, so they replace.
You're an idiot.
He's not talking to me this time.
Made me snort that time.
So yeah, they replace Andy Rourke with a bass player named Craig Gannon.
I'm sorry, go back. Because where I lost it, post-it note. There was a post-it note that said what?
I'll say it again. The post-it note said, and I quote, "Andy, you have left the Smiths. Goodbye and good luck. Morrissey."
Oh, okay.
And Andy Rourke says it happens. As a matter of fact, he still has the post-it note.
All right.
Morrissey denies it.
Okay.
But Andy Rourke has the post-it note. He has it framed in his house, from what I understand.
Well, and you said originally it was the same members from start to finish. Did they replace him for a while?
Yes. Okay, so what happens is they get a bass player named Craig Gannon, who was with Aztec Camera. But 2 weeks later, Andy Rourke comes back, and they were a 5-piece for about 6 months. And I think two of the best songs that they ever recorded, barring How Soon Is Now, because How Soon Is Now is anthemic.
Right.
But the two other best singles that they recorded with 5 of them, with Craig Gannon basically backing Johnny Marr up on guitar. He just goes to guitar.
What songs?
Panic and Ask. Ask me, ask me, ask me. Ask me, ask me, ask me.
I probably
if it's not
have
love,
heard it. I mean,
then it's the bomb,
if those were really big, then they played on First Wave.
Yes.
I've probably heard
and
them.
Panic is Panic on the Streets of... It's the Hang the DJ song, yeah.
Yeah.
I love but yeah. And Ask Me, Coyness is nice, Shyness. Coyness is nice, Shyness is nice.
Yeah, that one I'm not familiar with.
I'll
Panic
play it
I Am.
later. Yeah.
Panic I Am.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was, it's a bunch of kids screaming Hang the DJ at the end of it. It's great, and it's so sonically just cool. But then after a little bit, they get rid of Craig Gannon because Johnny Marr just doesn't like the idea of having a 5-piece, so Craig Gannon just kind of quits. Funnily enough...
Funnily?
Funnily, yes.
Funnily.
Thank you.
There we go. New
That's a
word.
Like tangent-y?
Tangentially?
Tangentially? Manfredson Jensen.
I claim it as a word.
Yes. Funnily enough.
Funnily enough, all right.
They go back to being a 4-piece, and they start recording on their last album. Now, they've got one more album in their contract with Rough Trade. They start shopping around for a different record company because they're tired. It bothered them that Rough Trade couldn't get those albums out. In The Queen is Dead, which is the one that everybody thinks of as their greatest piece, one of the songs they do is Frankly, Mr. Shankly, where they make fun of the record company owner, Jeff Travis.
Wow.
But they call him Mr. Shankly. Frankly, Mr. Shankly.
Wow.
Yeah, you're a flatulent pain in the ass is one of the lines. Yeah.
That's balls.
I don't mean to be so rude, but I must assure you, Mr. Shankly, please give us money.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So
balls.
You need to give that one a listen. But yeah, so they start recording Strange Ways, Here We Come. It's called Strange Ways, Here We Come because outside of Manchester, there is a prison. It used to be called Strange Ways, which is an odd name for a prison.
Right.
So yeah, it would be like us saying Gainesville, Here We Come.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. They recorded it with Rough Trade, and it was with Sire over here. So Seymour Stein, the guy that the Replacements ended up hooking up with,
right,
ran Sire, and Sire was huge. Sire was real big about getting the indie guys out to the mass public. So when they finally get out, like Depeche Mode went through Sire. And that's the thing. Depeche Mode I always thought Depeche Mode was a big band over here, but it really wasn't.
Like I said, for me, it was, the stuff that was hitting the pop charts.
Yeah.
That's, Personal Jesus and Enjoy the Silence, and then you came out with Route 66 and all that. Those were on the major radio stations.
Yeah,
that's when they all started making their appearance on the major stations and you didn't have to listen to the lower frequency anymore. So that's when, like I said, I kind of became familiar with some of that stuff.
Well, yeah, and like that live album they did, 101, where they basically toured up and down the Pacific Coast Highway, Highway 101. They ended up playing in like a Pasadena, basically football stadium for like 4 or 5 nights that they recorded that soundtrack for. Depeche Mode did. Yeah.
The Rose Bowl?
Yes, I'm sorry, the Rose Bowl.
A Pasadena football field. The Rose Bowl.
Okay, the Rose Bowl. They played the Rose Bowl for like 4 or 5 nights straight and filled it. That's not a small band.
This is not a relatively unknown stadium, FYI.
All right, I just know Pasadena Football Stadium.
I saw it flash in my head when you said that. I was like, the Rose Bowl?
Yes, the Rose Bowl. Hey, if it had been a college stadium in Dallas, where they have big games, I'd have known it was the Cotton Bowl.
Oh my God!
I don't live in Pasadena.
All right,
I don't watch the football.
I know you don't.
But yeah, so they do that, and this is in. Okay, that's Depeche Mode. Sorry, getting back to the Smiths. So they're recording Strange Ways. They record a couple of videos. And then they're basically done for a while. There's a break in touring. Johnny Marr decides he needs to go take a vacation because Morrissey doesn't like road managers or managers. He wanted that to be handled by a member of the band. Johnny Marr volunteered for it right off the bat. At first, it was easy, but Johnny Marr was basically writing all of the music, dealing with bookings and everything else, and the record company, and he was the primary guitarist.
So
he had to, they would hire a manager, and Morrissey would fire him within 2 or 3 weeks.
Completely unrelated to where you are, but I saw you had a train of thought, and I didn't want to interrupt you. You had touched on something which is just triggering me. Videos. Yeah. So in the early to probably late, mid to late 80s. I don't know how far it was, but anyway, I really loved watching music videos. Yeah. I loved watching MTV when MTV actually showed music videos. Yeah. And then you had VH1 later. Yeah. But you said videos. To my knowledge, I never saw any of their videos either. The only alternative 80s band I can recall seeing videos for, New Order. Yeah. I don't recall seeing anybody else's these groups I know now.
If you were going to watch those videos, you got 2 hours a week. It was on a show called 120 Minutes. And you could see videos by the Replacements, by Husker Du, which was another one of the Replacements' contemporaries, the Smiths, The Cure. Matter of fact, The Cure took over one whole episode of 120 Minutes and showed nothing but their own videos. Robert Smith.
This just baffles me how this stuff just escaped me in the 80s.
It was designed to. It was like the record companies wanted to release the pop records and, damn the torpedoes and full speed ahead. This is what we're doing.
I mean, because music is big to me.
Yes.
Music for me has always touched memories and really meant something to me. When I listen to on 80s on 8 on the weekends, they do the top 50, whatever it was, or top 100. I think they may actually do 100 for a certain year on that date. Yep. And I love listening to those because it takes me back to memories. Sometimes painful memories, sometimes good memories, but it always takes me back. And I love so many genres of music that I just can't get over and I've said this enough. I know I can't get over how I did not know about this music.
It was designed that way. The record companies wanted to get, and they were in bed with the radio stations, especially once we lost AOR stations. I want to say that the Zoo was maybe the last one in America. We eventually got independent, commercial independent stations.
Right.
In
The
DFW.
Edge.
Yeah, the Edge.
The
In 1989, we got the Edge.
Right.
It was a lot easier to find this stuff. But like I said, you wanted to see a Smiths or a Husker Du or a Replacements video. If I didn't have cable, so but if you had cable and you had MTV, you had to be there at 10 o'clock on Saturday night and hope that the video you want to see was on there, because you got 2 hours of it, and then you had to wait another week.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and occasionally, if enough people called about these things and enough people said, "Hey, play this," we saw this on 120 Minutes, they would eventually put it on the regular rotation. And that's how True Faith by New Order got in the rotation. And it was a heavily rotated song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a great video, very psychedelic, and
I saw that live at the Coca-Cola Starplex, and let me tell you, you think it's good in the video? Oh, Bernard Sumner comes out, and there's this giant Japanese drum, when they kind of set at an angle. And I did not realize this. Bernard Sumner is a very small man. He has these giant light up drumsticks, and the heads on them are about the size of softballs. And he goes up to that, and he's got a head mic on, and he starts banging, do, 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 and they start playing Blue Monday, and then they go into True Faith. And the crowd went nuts.
wow.
And he is beating the tar out of this thing.
I wish I could have seen that.
Yeah, that was, and the opening band was Throwing Muses, which is another band you will never hear, but you should have.
My very first concert I went to was In Excess Kickoff America.
That was a great show. Yeah,
Love that show. Phenomenal. Their opening act got booed off the stage.
who was it?
PIL. And so
That hurts my heart.
Well, yes, because
Public Image Limited for all our listeners.
yes,
It's Johnny Lydon's band after the Sex Pistols.
And the reason they were booed off the stage, that's not the NXS fan base.
Yeah.
PIL. PIL was alternative.
Yeah.
NXS was not, even though NXS is embraced by the alternative today. I mean, you hear NXS all the time.
They were originally an alt band.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know the difference between when they're playing them as an alt band versus when they're not. On 80s on 8, they play, off kick. It's the big hit, Off Kick. The very
Which one? They were all.
I know they were all great. That's another one of those albums. It's just all great. But it was the very first one. Need You Tonight.
Need You Tonight. Yeah. Yo, when I'm
yeah.
cunt.
On 80s on 8, they play Need You Tonight. On First Wave, they play it like it's meant to play, which is Need You Tonight, immediately by Mediate.
Mediate. Try not to hate.
Right.
Love you.
And so you only get that on the alternative station.
Yeah.
But for NXS at the time, because NXS had just gone mainstream.
Yeah. In a big way.
in a
I
huge way.
actually prefer the album before that. Listen Like Thieves.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
A lot of people do.
It's still a little alty.
Yeah. I like all of it. NXS is one of my favorites. I love all their stuff. So they matched them up with Public Image Limited, but the fan base that was there for Kickoff America were the people like me that were bubblegum pop and just
You hear disappointed, and it's like, who the hell is this guy?
Right. We were extremely angry towards PIL, and they got booed off the stage.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, that's heartbreaking. Yeah, especially when because Rise is an anthem for us alty kids, us punky kids. I could be wrong. I could be right.
And
Anger is an energy.
I'm just not a fan of PIL to this day, and it's all because of that concert. I have, again, music memories, and it takes me to that show. And
it's wow. God, I can't believe they booed off PI. You know what though? Don also remembers going to see Billy Joel, and they got Concrete Blonde got booed off, and because they were the opening act.
I could see that.
Yeah,
and
that's a wrong. That's a bad pairing.
Yeah, I like Concrete Blonde too, but no, I could absolutely see that because it's the wrong audience.
Concrete Blonde is early cowpunk, country western punk rock music, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
My favorite country song is actually by them. It's called Joey's good. Yeah, and it sounds like Hank Williams if he had a really good electric guitar. I'm sorry, we circled away from the Smiths again.
As we will.
As we do. They're recording Strange Ways. Johnny Marr goes on vacation because he needs it. He's been working constantly for 5 years. He hasn't had a day off in 5 years. This is about May of '87, right? So he goes on vacation, and he was like, "Don't call me, don't do nothing. Give me a couple of weeks. I need some rest." Because they would get a manager, and Morrissey would fire him. And Morrissey's known for being difficult. Johnny Marr doesn't mind. Johnny Marr still hangs out with him. They go have dinner all the time. Johnny Marr just kind of doesn't want to work with him anymore. He's done that. But yeah, so they go off, or he goes off on vacation, and there is a reporter who leaks a story that Johnny Marr has quit the band. It was a major article. It's big because they're a big band now. Their last album went to number 2 in the album charts in England.
Right.
And I think it got up to on the top 50 here.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big Queen is Dead was. One of my favorite Smith songs on there, Cemetery Gates. They also had some pretty heavy hitters. A lot of the stuff that you think of as being the Smiths, like frankly, Mr. Shankly, is off of that album. And then of course they've got that Strange Ways in the hopper, but Rough Trade's having to crank it up because they know they're going to have to release a bunch of copies, and they don't want to be out.
Right.
So they want to get a bunch of copies made before they start sending them out. So this reporter releases this information. The reporter won't say where he got the information from. It was not true. Johnny Marr had not said that, was not planning to do that. He just needed a break.
Right.
But he didn't hear it until he got back. And then the other reporters were talking to Morrissey, and it's like, well, if he's leaving, then maybe we should split the band up and blah, 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 blah. So Morrissey starts talking, trash about Marr. The theory is that Morrissey is the one that gave the information to the reporter, and the idea, and they all say the same thing now. It's like, we were done. We weren't going to get any bigger than we were right then. And we don't think we would have gotten any better than we would have, because they all believe, every single member of the band believes that Strange Ways, Here We Come was their best album. And if you sit and listen to it, it's pretty damn good. I don't think it's as good as Queen is Dead, and it does not have a special place in my heart like Meat is Murder or The Smiths does. But yeah, it's good.
Sorry, I was laughing because what you're talking about, it tickled me. It made me think of Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Probably one of their biggest albums, Rumors.
Yes.
Which was all about the rumors that were all going around.
Yeah.
Granted, they were true.
Yeah.
But going
Every
around.
one of those rumors was true.
Yeah, about the internal fighting going on. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but again, completely non-related. But you see a picture, I've seen it on Facebook, a picture of Taylor Swift side by side with Stevie Nicks. And Taylor Swift caption says, "Write songs about ex-boyfriends." Stevie Nicks says, "That's cute. I not only write songs about ex-boyfriends, but I make them sing it to me."
And she did.
Yes. On Rumors, she made Lindsey Buckingham sing about their relationship.
Well, and Mick Fleetwood, because she was with Mick Fleetwood for a while.
Oh,
They dropped him. So Johnny Marr gets back. He's like, he just got off his vacation, and he comes back to all of this insanity. And he's like, fine, I guess I do quit.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? I guess I do. He was because he doesn't say it because he's a very nice man. Johnny Marr is known for being a very nice man. He comes and talks to
He was tired. He was worn out.
Yeah. And he was only like 26.
Sure. But it sounds...
He just gotten married to his longtime girlfriend, who was basically the fifth member of the band.
Well, it just sounds like mentally he needed to be done.
Yeah. And I agree. And you know what? They're probably right. They released, like I said, one more album of singles. Although it's not so much singles because they were on the albums here.
Right.
So it's not as important but we released a different version of that album called Louder Than Bombs, which has Sheila Delaney, the playwright, on the cover, which is where the song Sheila Take a Bow. It's about Sheila Delaney. She wrote A Taste of Honey, which became a movie, which Morrissey was obsessed with Joan Plowright. And God, it's a great movie. Black and white, just, and it's shot and takes place in Manchester, and these guys are all Manchester guys. But yeah, so afterwards, Morrissey basically started recording his first solo album, Viva Hate, like 6 months later. He released it like a year after Strange Ways came, because Strange Ways came out right after they split up in like October of 87. So yeah. So from May of 82 to May of 87, that's when all of this happened. And then of course they released the last album in October.
Right.
They could have released it in May, but they want to make sure they had and it sold out. It was huge, but a lot of people didn't like it because they never got to tour with it. I disagree. I think I agree with the Smiths. As far as being made, that was probably the best album they did. And it's great. I would recommend Louder Than Bombs to anybody who likes the Smiths, because a lot of the stuff that we talked about is on Louder Than Bombs, and it's great. Great. I had the only album I didn't have was Strange Ways by them, just because I couldn't do it. Because by the time I found out about them, they'd already split up.
Right.
It was a few years later.
Right.
And, instead of buying Strange Ways, I bought Morrissey's Bone of Drag. I had the option, which was his second album, although it wasn't so much an album as it was a collection of singles. He recorded a bunch of singles because he didn't want to make an album right after his first album. So it took like 3 or 4 years, and he made a bunch of singles. But he recorded them with Mike Joyce, and it was basically Last of the Famous International Playboys, I think of as the last Smith song that was recorded, because it was recorded in 1990 with everybody but Johnny Marr. Everybody, Craig Gannon, the replacement guitarist, Mike Joyce, and Andy Rourke. They're even in the video. So,
sorry, I know I keep looking around, but I swear I'm hearing a dog snoring.
Yes.
I guess I am.
Yes.
I guess we must have bored them.
We bored the dogs. It's the Smiths. It would be better if you could hear this. So people go out there, listen to the Smiths.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I can't.
Definitely worth the listen. Yeah.
They rock out. They also will kick you. They're soul kicking.
Sure.
I mean, as a 17-year-old boy sitting alone in my room, listening to the first Smiths album, being brokenhearted about a girl, it made me feel better. And now a lot of people are like, how do you listen to this sad kind of music and it makes you happy? And was like, because it was there for me. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a better, not a better time in my life, but a less stressful time in my life.
Right.
A time when all things were possible. And I had these poets singing in my ear. Because honestly, listening to Morrissey's like reading Oscar Wilde. It's just that. So yes, go out there, check out the Smiths. They did make a documentary, a docudrama about the Smiths. Well, okay, it was about Morrissey. England Is Mine is the name of it, and the guy they cast to be Morrissey is great. If nothing else, watch a couple of minutes of that. It's like, oh yeah, I see that.
I'm really surprised that before you covered this, that you didn't watch that movie that just came out.
I actually went to do it, and then I watched England Is Mine again instead, because it actually deals with England Is Mine. The last scene is the scene where they knock on his door.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
gotcha.
I was like, oh yeah, I need to watch that movie before we do this. Oh, there's England Is Mine. You know what? I'm going to watch England Is Mine again. I already bought it. I think you can get it on Amazon. There's some other things. The BBC released a documentary called These Things Take Time. You can get it on YouTube. It's not a great copy, but you can get it on. And of course, if you have BBC iPlayer, which I don't know why anybody here would, but there are those guys who like to pretend to be English with VPN and listen to things in English. But yeah, these things take time. It's really good because it tracks the whole thing, and they talk to everybody except Morrissey. They don't really talk to Morrissey. It's old interviews, but they do talk to Johnny Marr and Mike Joyce, and it's really good. And go out and listen to the albums. Strange Ways is a great album. You can listen to it any time, I would say. The Smiths, I think it's wonderful, but I can see why people wouldn't. You know what I mean? It does sound kind of tinny, but it affected me as a young man and made me happy when I was sad. So
Sure.
But yes, that is it for the Smiths.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you for that.
Anytime.
I appreciate that. That's good stuff.
Great stuff.
All right. Well, then I guess better pop your seatbelt back on because
Pop on my seatbelt, getting ready for this roller coaster.
we're going to go for a wild ride.
Murder.
And here comes the murder. So for my story, like I said, it's kind of a wild. I don't know. This was wild to me. I got it from several sources. Murderpedia.org. Which I love finding stuff on there.
Murderpedia is great.
Medium.com. Onmanorama.com. thesun.com, and a YouTube video, The Disturbing Case of Amardeep Sada.
Okay.
So, Amardeep Sada, he was born in India to a laborer in Musahari village in Bihar. You know this one?
Is this the little kid?
Oh, you already guessed it. So yeah, so let me give you the full name of the YouTube video then. The Disturbing Case of Amardeep Sada, the world's youngest serial killer.
Oh yeah.
The video too, or not the video. I looked at a lot of pictures with it, and one of the things that we talk about was just how creeped out the cops were.
Yeah.
The police. They were very creeped out by this kid. And we talk about that.
Look at his face.
Yeah, they talk about that quite a bit. It did say that his parents weren't abusive, but they were very, very poor, and they couldn't give him much attention.
Right on.
They make it a point of that because so many killers, you find that they were abusive. They had disturbing childhoods. They had a disturbing childhood. Another thing that I heard just recently. And I have to kind of start looking.
You want a society without serial killers? Stop beating your kids.
Yeah, that's one way.
Yeah.
But another fascinating thing is a lot of these serial killers had some sort of traumatic head injury. And they think that may be a cause that it's turned a switch.
Yeah.
So you find that. But really didn't get much of that in here. They just didn't get a whole lot of attention. He killed his cousin, his sister, and a neighbor's daughter. He killed his cousin and sister in 2006. And in 2007, he killed his last victim. All the victims were less than 1 year old.
Yes. Little kids.
His sister was sleeping in his mother's lap when Amardeep carried the baby to her death. He would take them to a nearby field, and would repeatedly smash them in the face with a brick. And the field was far enough from the village that the screams couldn't be heard. He'd then cover the body with grass and leaves and return home.
Like nothing happened.
His parents, the parent of the relatives he killed, felt it was a family matter and that outsiders didn't need to get involved. So police were never called. They just kept it internal because the village didn't know about this. The family did, but they left it alone. It was reported later that Amardeep even took the family to the field and showed them the dead body. When he killed the neighbor's daughter, this was the last one, the police were called on that one. And the villagers told the police they had captured a ruthless murderer. they didn't believe it when they arrived because they're like,
of course not.
this is a kid.
Yeah, he's a little kid. Like 7, 8?
I think he was 8. Yeah. The villagers said that they knew Amardeep had a dark streak, and they previously suspected him in the other infant deaths in the family. But of course, they didn't know anything. And originally, Amardeep's family didn't allow him to say anything to the police. They were like, nope. But the police pressured him. They allowed Amardeep to tell the truth. And they said that he confessed to them without one hint of remorse. Where I may say it later. Yeah, I do say it later, but it's worth mentioning here as well. They said he smiled at him as he told them what happened.
Yeah.
And that it was very creepy. And the pictures they show of him online are very sinister.
Oh,
very sinister pictures.
Oh, yeah. I was researching this one a little bit for some stuff.
Well, sorry, got you here on this one.
No, that's okay.
The police really didn't believe it at first, but then Amardeep confessed it himself. For the neighbor's daughter, Amardeep found the baby sleeping while her mother was off doing chores, and he took the baby out to the field, strangled her, and beat her with a brick. So that's where I've got, when the police took him in and began questioning him, he smiled a lot how he committed the murders. He reportedly looked unperturbed when he explained how he'd committed each murder. And the police actually said they were scared. They were scared of him. Like, this was a devil child.
Yeah. He's not a, I mean, you get some 8-year-olds that are kind of big for 8-year-olds. This kid ain't.
No, he's small.
Tiny.
And as a matter of fact, while they were questioning him, he stopped and he goes, "Could I have some cookies? I'm hungry." And it just baffled the police. This kid, Amardeep then took the police to the deserted field where he had taken the children, and they had blunt force trauma. He hit them on their faces until they weren't breathing anymore, which is what he said. So police then sought out a psychiatrist. They're like, this kid needs help.
Yeah. That would have been the first call.
Yeah.
This kid is 8 years old. Oh my God.
Well, they diagnosed him with a mental disorder of a sadist who liked to kill. So that was it. Just that he was compelled to kill. And that he probably would have kept going.
Yeah.
Because he was a child, he couldn't go to jail, and so he served his sentence in solitary confinement in the town of Munger, and they even changed his name because he was so young. He did say that he knew that the 3 young infants were available for the taking because their parents would leave them asleep while they did their chores.
Yeah.
And the psychiatrist actually said that they were purposely targeted because they were more vulnerable than he was.
Yeah.
So this was a power killing. This was I'm bigger, I'm better, I'm stronger than you are.
Yeah. This is not just pushing the other kid off the swing.
Mm-mm. They did determine, though, that he could not distinguish between right and wrong.
Okay.
And he needed to stay in solitary confinement until he could relearn the lessons of ethics and morality. They did believe that his sadistic nature could be cured with medication and therapy. But before he was cured, that it would be extremely dangerous to let him walk free.
Yeah.
He was released in 2016 when he turned 18 years old, and he'd now be 23. And so, yes, this was the youngest serial killer ever at 8 years old. His current whereabouts and identity are unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another scary part.
Yeah.
For all anyone knows, Amardeep could be walking the streets as a free man with the potential to commit murder again.
Yes.
That I think was the scariest part of this is nobody knows where he is.
Yeah. Don't know where he is.
And he
Don't
is a
know
free
what he
man.
looks like.
Right. Was he really cured? Did they cure him? As he grew up, did he learn to play him? Because I almost imagine that he might have actually learned to maybe play the psychiatrist. I mean, I don't know. I'm no psychologist. Maybe they can't. But that's just kind of what I imagined on this kid. It actually frightened me a little bit that he's a free man.
Yeah.
And
walking the streets. Well, I think he's in some large southern Indian city too.
Yeah, I think
A large population center.
I think I read that, but nobody really knows.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought the scariest thing of that was. So yeah, I'm surprised that you already knew about it because I had never heard about it before. But yeah, I wanted to come to the shock value at the end when I told you he was only 8 years
He's 8
old.
years old.
Because when you read it out of context, not knowing his age, and then hear that he did what he did, and he was only 8.
8 and small for 8 too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should probably I should put some pictures up of him too, especially that
Smiling picture.
evil devil look he's got. That I saw that in every article I read. Every link I went to where I pulled information from was just that picture. And I know this was short. I'm sorry, but literally.
It's fine.
I was getting the same information off so many sites because it was news articles and the aftermath, and I dug and tried to find, does anybody know where this kid is now?
Nobody knows.
Nothing.
Nobody knows.
Nothing at all. So
Oh yeah.
so there's a good nice little creep factor for you. Hopefully you weren't just about to go to bed.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, you could listen to the Smiths. That's in the.
Sure. Well, that's not going to make you any happier.
Okay, I forget. It's me that gets happy because of this.
Right.
No one else.
Everybody else is going to get sad. So you've just said if people are a little creeped out by the murder, go listen to something sad now.
Go listen to the sad bastard music.
So good stuff today.
Good stuff.
I enjoyed it a whole bunch. I hope everybody else did too. We appreciate each and every one of you that are out there listening. As always, you can go to our website, find more information about us, links to all of our social media, as well as all of our contact information.
Yes.
You can find our Patreon on our website as well. This episode was 8. I think we said comes out June 25th. So June 20th. Yeah, I think that was right. So, those are all the ways you can find us, talk to us.
Yep.
Let us know, what you're thinking about the show. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
And if you have ideas, things you want to hear about, if you would like us to cover your obsession, or you have a true crime that you'd like us to cover, do make sure you contact us and
Let us know.
let us know. Love to hear from you.
Because we're looking for material. We're always looking for material.
I have tons of material. I have so much material still to study. I've got so much I've started. I just need to get to the rest of it. That's I think all. So
I'm Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Geoffrey with your murdery, and this is the Nerdery and Murdery podcast.
Cue the music.